Okay, quick scenario for you. You get an unexpected $1,000. Maybe it's a tax refund, a bonus, a side gig payout, whatever. And for about 10 seconds, your brain goes wild with possibilities. New shoes, that trip you've been eyeing, finally upgrading your phone, maybe just treating yourself, because honestly, you deserve it, right? You've been grinding. And look, I get it. That feeling is real. But here's something interesting. Studies on lottery winners and windfall recipients show a strange pattern. Most people who get sudden money end up in the same financial position within a year or two as before they got it. Same stress, same paycheck-to-paycheck cycle, almost like the money evaporated. But then there's this other group, people who get the exact same $1,000 and somehow turn it into the foundation of real wealth. Same amount of money, completely different outcome. So today, I want to break down exactly what separates these two groups, what rich people actually do with their first $1,000 versus what everyone else does. And by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what move to make the next time money lands in your account.
My name is Jack. If you want to actually build wealth instead of just cycling through windfalls, hit subscribe and drop a thumbs up. Let's start with what everyone else does, because I think you'll recognize this pattern immediately. Group 1. Spend it on lifestyle. This is the most common move. New clothes, eating out, a small upgrade here and there. None of these purchases are evil on their own. The problem is what's missing. There's no plan. The money just disappears into daily life, and a few weeks later, you can't even remember where it went. You check your bank statement, and it's just a blur of $40 here, $60 there, nothing you can even point to. Group 2, pay off debt with no strategy. Now, this sounds responsible, and sometimes it is, but here's the mistake. A lot of people throw the money at whatever debt feels most stressful emotionally instead of what's mathematically smartest. They pay off a small $200 balance because it feels good, while a high-interest credit card sitting at 24% keeps compounding in the background. It's emotionally satisfying, but mathematically, it's leaving money on the table. Group 3, keep it in checking just in case. This one's sneaky because it feels responsible too, but money sitting in a checking account with zero purpose slowly bleeds away. A grocery run here, a subscription there, and within 2 months it's gone with nothing to show for it. No growth, no protection, just a slow leak until the balance quietly returns to normal.
Notice the pattern. In all 3 cases, the money vanishes without building anything. No growth, no protection, no forward motion. It's the same $1,000 disappearing in 3 different disguises. Now let's look at what rich people, or more accurately, people who think like investors, actually do with that same $1,000. Move 1. They ask one question first. Before spending $1, they ask, what job does this money need to do? That's it. That single question changes everything because it forces you to be intentional instead of reactive. Money without a job tends to disappear. Money with a job tends to grow. It sounds almost too simple to matter, but this one habit is the actual dividing line between the 2 groups we just talked about. Move 2. They fill the emergency gap first, but only up to a point. If they don't have at least $500 to $1,000 in accessible savings, that's priority 1. Not because saving is exciting, but because an emergency fund is what prevents future money from getting hijacked by a car repair or medical bill. Let's do quick math here. Someone with zero buffer who gets hit with a $600 car repair often puts it on a credit card at around 20% interest. If it takes a year to pay off, that $600 repair actually costs closer to $660 to $700. Meanwhile, someone with a buffer just pays it and moves on. Same emergency, completely different financial outcome. Notice this isn't about being rich, it's about having $600 sitting somewhere doing nothing except waiting to absorb a hit.
Move 3. They attack high-interest debt strategically, not emotionally, mathematically. If someone has a credit card at 22% interest, paying that down is essentially a guaranteed 22% return because that's the rate they're no longer paying. No investment guarantees that. So smart money treats high-interest debt like the most urgent investment opportunity in the room, because in a sense, it is. This is the move people skip most often because debt feels shameful instead of strategic, and that emotional weight causes people to avoid looking at it altogether. Move 4, and this is the one most people skip entirely. They invest a portion, even a small one. Here's the thing about that first $1,000. It's rarely about the $1,000 itself. It's about starting the habit and the mechanism of investing. Let's say someone puts $500 of that money into a simple index fund and never adds another dollar again. Historically, the stock market has averaged around 10% annually over long periods. At that rate, $500 could grow to roughly $3,300 in 20 years. Not because they did anything fancy, just because they let time and compounding do the work. Compare that to $500 spent on a night out, gone in one evening. No return, no growth, nothing left to show 20 years later. Same $500, one version multiplies itself, the other version just becomes a memory. Move 5, they protect the win with boundaries. This might be the most overlooked step. People who build wealth from windfalls almost always set a small rule for themselves, something like, I'll allow myself 10% of this for something fun, guilt-free, and the rest goes to work. That 10% matters more than people think because completely restricting yourself often backfires and leads to a spending binge later. A little intentional joy keeps the system sustainable because a system you can't stick to isn't really a system. Now let's put this into an actual $1,000 breakdown so you can see it side by side. Everyone else's version. $1,000 spent within a month on lifestyle upgrades, small debt payments with no strategy, or slowly drained from checking. Ending value after 1 year? Roughly zero, sometimes negative if new debt got added in the process. The Wealth Builders version, $100 kept as guilt-free spending, no shame attached. $300 added to an emergency buffer. $300 aimed directly at the highest interest debt. $300 invested in a simple, low-cost index fund. Ending value after 1 year, buffer growing, high-interest debt shrinking fast, and $300 already working through compounding, potentially worth close to $2,000 in 20 years from that single contribution alone, without ever touching it again.
Same starting number, completely different trajectory. Same $1,000, two entirely different futures. Now here's what most people don't realize about this whole thing. It's not really about the $1,000. It's about the decision-making pattern the $1,000 reveals. Because if someone burns through $1,000 with no plan, that same pattern repeats with $5,000, with $10,000, even with a $50,000 inheritance. The habit is the real asset, not the amount. People assume they'll suddenly become responsible once the number gets bigger, but the truth is the opposite. Bigger numbers just amplify whatever pattern is already there. I actually saw this play out with someone I know. She got a $1,200 bonus at work, and instead of spending it right away, she paused for 48 hours, just sat with the decision instead of reacting to it. In that time, she split it up. Some went to her buffer, some went toward a lingering credit card balance, and $200 went into an index fund she'd been putting off starting for over a year. That $200 wasn't life-changing on its own, but it was the first time she'd ever actually invested anything in her life. At a year later, she told me that one decision made every future bonus feel different, because now she had a system waiting for the money instead of chaos waiting for the money. The bonus itself was temporary. The system she built from it wasn't. Here's the harsh truth. The amount of money you get isn't usually what determines your financial future. Your default pattern is. But here's the hopeful part. Patterns can be rebuilt in a single decision, starting today with whatever amount you have in front of you right now. The next time money unexpectedly lands in your hands, whether it's $200 or $2,000, you don't need a complicated plan. You need 3 moves. Buffer first if it's missing, high-interest debt second, and a small, consistent investment third. That's it. That's the whole system.
You're not behind because you haven't gotten a windfall yet. You're behind because when the windfall comes, there's no system waiting for it. Build the system now so when the money shows up, it already knows exactly where to go, instead of quietly disappearing the way it always has before. If this helped you see money differently, hit subscribe, because on this channel, we don't chase quick wins. We build systems that actually last.